Hello there, and a huge welcome to this week's episode of Gina Gardner and Friends. I have a great friend with me today. We've spoken on a number of occasions about some really important themes. What's your goal? Is it to be rich, or is it to give impact and make a difference? And actually, can you have both? My guest today is Monica Henderson. She's an amazing lady. She's on a mission to change millions of lives around the world by helping change makers, thought leaders, coaches, and experts to live healthy, wealthy, and full lives. Monica, a huge welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. This is awesome, and I'm so excited to have the conversation with you today.
Oh, that's brilliant. Now, tell people a little bit about your story and your impending change.
Yeah, so, I have always been an entrepreneur. Every fiber in me is built to be an entrepreneur. And I remember when I had decided that I was going to, I'm going to do it this time. I'm going to fully dive in, and I'm never going back to the W-2 world. It is it. I was so intrigued and excited. And I even got a tattoo, which back then it was like, if you have a tattoo, you're marred and you can't, no one will do business with
My,
you. You
how
can't
things
get a
have
job, right?
changed.
Things have changed so much. But at the time, that was the thought process. And I even had a conversation with my aunt who was like, why did you get that? Now no one's going to employ you. Now, mind you, it's in a very, it's a little tiny butterfly on my shoulder. So it really is not that big of a deal. But that was the extent of passion I was and never going back to a 9 to 5. And at that time, when I was 28 years old and made this decision that I was going to step fully into this life, I remember having a meditation session and visualizing every single solitary thing that I wanted and saying, I want that come what may. And those magic words of come what may really set the universe in action for me. And I began to make a series of decisions that were going to be different because the universe was pushing me in that direction. I went from having a beautiful home with my daughter to not being able to live in that home anymore because my car broke down, and so then I had to live with family members, and I'm sleeping on a rollout bed in the living room with my 2-year-old. And I'm like, how did I get here? I thought this was going to be it. This was going to be my changeover. And it was not. It was the beginning. It was the falling away of all the things that were going to keep me from living the fullest expression of who I am. And everything that I saw in that visioning session, all of those things had to fall away so that I could be directly aligned with where I needed to be in order to create impact in the world. And so I decided that I was going to take this opportunity to revamp my life and bought a little notebook and a pen because that was really kind of all I could afford at the moment, and went to the park. And for a week, I decided I was going to map out my life. I was going to write everything down. I was going to write all the questions. I was going to question everything, every single morsel of my life. And in doing that, I was able to create a vision story for myself, and then decided that I was going to take only steps that were going to get me closer to this vision. And if it's not a part of that vision, it didn't count. So even if it was uncomfortable, even if it was obnoxious and no one would ever do it, I was going to do it anyway.
Okay.
And so I had this huge commute and all of these things. I needed to be in the city. I needed to be in this vision that I have for myself. And the pursuit of that vision became the foundation for the program that I created that now others use. And also it became the vehicle in which I now know how I'm going to be able to create impact in the world. But it took all of that chaos, right, to kind of mold me into this space so that I could really realize who I was meant to be on this world and how I could create impact and be a force for change in the world. And so that's kind of what set me in motion to help people live healthy, wealthy, and fulfilled.
Wow. Ultimately, there's what strikes me is how often we go through that chaos. You make a decision, you had very, very clear goals and you'd visualize them. And those people who are into manifesting, that's very much, how they advise you to get into that very vibrational feel of being in the moment when you've achieved it. But nevertheless, lots and lots of challenges, and you were really, really clear what you wanted, and you've achieved it. And I find it really interesting how often people go through that chaos in order to find out who they are. And I think for me, that's one of the most important things, is knowing yourself and appreciating who you are, and then being able to make impact on others. And let's just clarify, we're talking about positive impact on others, because you can have impact, can't you? And it's anything but positive.
So true and accurate. I think a lot of the times, most of us, when the universe is pushing us to change, right, pushing us to do something different, we are hell bent on holding it all together and not letting it fall apart. And I think that push pull of the universe trying to help us alleviate the pain by moving us into a different direction, and us being so incredibly hell-bent on sticking to, no, I can't let this fall apart and I can't let that fall apart, and pulling all those things together. And the visualization that brought me to that, I was sitting in Agape International Spiritual Center, and Michael Bernard Bethick was walking us through planting a seed in our soul, right? Okay. And he told us this analogy that in order for an acorn to become an oak tree, it has to shed the shell. Yeah. It can no longer have that shell, right? And so if the things that we needed to protect us, to get us to that moment, are no longer necessary, we have to let it go. But so many times we don't want to let those things go. We want to hold on to them because they were our protection against the wind, right? When you think of that acorn, it was hanging on the tree and then it dropped down and it had to survive all the things to get planted where it needed to get planted. And that shell was so important. But the unfolding of a person is super necessary to let go of some things so that the full acorn experience can turn into that oak tree, so that it can actually fully develop into what it needs to be. And if we're so busy holding on to... It
strikes me that many people are caught in what they call their comfort zone. Actually, in my experience personally, and then many clients I've worked with, it's actually, generally speaking, pretty uncomfortable because you're stuck. And you were talking about letting go. And I think for me, there's two elements to this. The one is letting go of needing to buy into the illusion that you are safe if you stay stuck. And I strongly believe it is an illusion, because if you stay still, in effect, you're going backwards because other things are moving forwards. And I think this letting go of who you think you need to be, of who you were, because if you allow yourself to evolve, you have to let go of who you were in order to become the who you are now, and then let go of that version of you in order to become the next best version of you. So for me, there's this letting go, but there's also this stepping out of the illusion of that you are safe in your comfort zone.
Yeah, I talk all the time about this tiny moment of courage, right? That stepping out part.
Yeah.
We all have those tiny moments of courage, right? And they may be quiet. They may be quiet courage, right? Where you're like, I think I should do it. Like, I think I should make that phone call, or I think I should ask that person the question, or I think I should volunteer, right? There are these tiny moments where we have a bit of courage. And if people can step out in those moments, that is the tiny peephole to like unearthing everything that you want. Because I mean, we have to realize that nothing in life that you want is on this side of fear. It's always on the other side. It's always anything worthwhile is always on the other side of fear. I can't think of a single thing that was worth me having in my life, not from, having a child to getting married to moving to a new city to making new friends, all of it. Every single bit of it was on the other side of fear. It was never where I was comfortable. It was never where I was sitting. It was never on this side of that river of fear, right? And so if we can listen to that one tiny moment of courage and actually just lean into it, say hello, or make that comment, or pick up the phone, or send that message, or little tiny action in that moment of fear, that moment of courage, and walk through that fear in that moment, you'd be surprised how the universe conspires for your good at that point, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, if we can sometimes recognize that what we interpret as fear is just that something's unfamiliar.
Mm-hmm.
That we're hot wired to challenge change, to think, there's a huge risk in here. And that's how we survived as cavemen and women, isn't it?
Yes.
But so often, well, I think that change is one of the three constants in life, along with death and time.
Yes.
We're changing from the moment we're conceived until the moment we die. We're changing physically, emotionally, spiritually. We're growing. And
Yes.
some of the changes are external to us. But I think the biggest change is that one that goes on internally, which is, I'm going to embrace this. It might not be comfortable, but it will become more so. In order to grow and to achieve what I want to achieve, I need to step out and I need to let go of that old whatever it is, and look for the excitement in it. Stage fright is the same,
yes,
effectively, as excitement and the bit of adrenaline you need for a good performance, isn't it?
It is.
Oh, sorry, go on. I interrupted you.
You're spot on when it comes to this concept of the fear is really just the unknown and the uncertainty of change, right? And you're absolutely, you said it's one of the three constants. I'm curious as to what the other two constants that you're alluding to. But I always say change is by law, it is constant. Everything is in change. Through nature, everything is cyclical, right? Our lives are cyclical. The days are cyclical. The time is cyclical. Everything around us is cyclical. So this concept that we have that things should be the same ever is the big illusion, right? Yeah. That the world is selling us, the concept that you can ever be the same person you were ever before. Is the lie. It's the actual lie.
Yeah.
Every second that we're alive, we are different. Every second, every experience that we have shifts us ever so slightly. And
cells are changing. We're not the same person in our physicality in a few weeks that we were today, are we?
Yeah.
I mean, everything shifts. But just the two other constants, I think it's Mr. Micawber, one of Dickens' characters, who talks about constants in life being death, that certainty, that if you're born at some point you're going to die, and the other was that you were going to have to pay taxes.
Oh, there you go. Death, taxes, and change. I love it.
But one of the things that really strikes me about, you talked about chaos, and I think it's a really great thing to explore, because if you're curious about the chaos rather than you fear the chaos, out of that chaos will emerge something different. So you've got a butterfly on your shoulder, but when a butterfly goes into the pupa, having been a caterpillar, it completely decomposes from a caterpillar in order to become a butterfly. It's not a slight change, it is a complete metamorphosis, and we have the option to do the same.
Yeah. You know, it always looks like chaos when you're up close to it. The universe, think about it, the universe feels like chaos. But when you like further and further away from it you go, you realize that there is a divine order and a patterning to that chaos. And so this concept that, yes, it feels like chaos, right? It feels like I can't grasp anything. I can't control what is happening. Feels like chaos. But the reality is that is the divine order of your life, right? In those cyclical changes, there are millions of cyclical changes happening around you at exactly the same time, like in you and externally and internally. There are things in orbit, in their own orbits, and they're, happenstancing in the same place in order for things to happen. But change has an anatomy. It's one of the things that I teach is called the 6-year rule. And how I came to this was my own musings. I have the whole entire world that lives in my head, just me and my thoughts. And there was this musing of, I get bored often, right? I'm bored. Why am I bored? I'm bored. I do something, I like start a project, and then I want to go, 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 go. And it's so much fun. And then it gets to this point and then I'm bored and I want to do something else. And I thought, well, that's interesting. When I look at my life, this seems to be a pattern for me.
Yeah.
Right. And when I started applying, what is that pattern and how often does it happen? I realized that, wait a minute, there is a real pattern to this. And then I thought, well, maybe there's a pattern to my life, like how I'm living my life. So then I started looking at that. And in that moment, I came to this realization that every 6 years, I'm a completely different person. Like I'm a whole other entity of a person, right? Mind, body, spirit, completely different. And if you really look at the human lifespan, right? When you think of from birth to 6 years old, you're not the same person, no. Right? The evolution that has happened in those 6 years is tremendous. And if you kind of do that all the way through your life, you think 6 to 12 and 12 to 18 and 18 to 24 and 24 to 30 and 30 to 36. You can't be the same person in each of those eras. Your intentions are different, your desires are different, your wants are different, your needs are different, everything about you is different. And so when I started to discover a little bit more about this rule, I realized that there's a pattern to it.
We've been talking about, embracing the chaos of development and evolution. But I want to spend, as I said, the last few minutes talking about, what is your goal? You're moving to a goal of financial success, to one where much more a positive impact. Talk me through that. Just bear in mind that our time is quite short.
Yeah, I could literally talk to you forever. But so right before the break, I was talking about my life trajectory. And in understanding my life trajectory, I realized that I need something different every single 6 years of my life. And so I had set a goal at 28 when I realized this, that I was only going to work hard for 10 more years. And at the end of 10 years for money, at the end of 10 years, I was no longer going to be on this rat race that they call like make money for the sake of making money. But regardless of what I was doing, whether how much money I made or not, I was going to focus my energy on impact and how I was going to actually create the changes in the world that I wanted to see. And so I'm coming up on that that birthday. The 42nd birthday is next May of 2023. And everything in me has followed that process. And that process that I was talking about is the cycle of rebirth, right? So we're born into a concept, and then we have to come to an understanding. And then once we have an understanding, then we have to build on that understanding. Building that understanding, that knowledge we build, then we sustain that for a period of time. And then it's time for things to shift. It's natural. It automatically happens. The satisfaction or either the satisfaction or performance, lowers, and all of a sudden we need to do something different, which sends us into this examining and developing, and then we do it all over again. And so for my rebirth, I have been in this shift of like, yes, I can make impact in the world with thought leaders and change makers and coaches and experts and helping them, and I can make money doing that. But now, how do I take the way that I've helped them, and how do I apply that to some of the world's problems? And we have three really major kind of concepts. We have systemic issues, right? Like how we're raising our children and how we're coming up in society and how we're supporting ourselves. We have this unhousing problem, especially here in Los Angeles, where there are so many people who were in institutions and released from those institutions on their own recognizance and weren't able to do anything about it. And then we have rural and indigenous communities who know how to help us with climate change, and we're not connecting with them. And so that's really the shift, the change, the rebirth that I'm coming into for my next phase of life.
There's so much there, and we could really have a program on each of those particular shifts. What I find quite interesting is, for me, I think there is a way to have a divine financial exchange and make a positive impact, and use that divine financial exchange in order to move the mission forward.
Yes.
Yes. And I think people often, and I'm not suggesting you do, but very often it's either or. When I think very often having a hybrid that works, so long as you don't lose the integrity of what you're trying to achieve, is, well, for me, that's the route that I'm taking in order to make a positive impact in the world. Yes. But at the same time, recognizing that currency is energy and it enables you to do other things. And in the last minute or so, can you say your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I am not going into this next phase in creating a nonprofit in order for this to happen. I'm working within my own company that I've built that is a for-profit business, but instead driving and steering the conversations around those people who are in my community and telling them, hey, these are problems that you can help solve. How can we come up with a solution together? How can we collaborate together to start solving these problems? And how do we reach out to these communities? And so I believe, I 100% agree with you that it does not require me to be less than financially in order to achieve that kind of impact.
And I think that's really important for people to hear, because I think there are many people who want to make a positive impact on the world, but think it's in some way not quite nice to think that you do that in a way that is profitable too.
Yeah, I would say stick to your zone of genius. If there's something you're amazing at, like, oh, I could do this all day, every day, and it would be amazing. Then team up with other people who also are excited about what they do and amazing at what they do, and collectively create that impact in whatever community that you guys are all, collectively passionate about and can support. And, buy-in on all levels from the people who are being supported and the people who are supporting is necessary. So that can come as an energy exchange via actual currency, or energy exchange as far as goods and services being exchanged as well.
Brilliant. We've got to stop there, but before we do, where can people find you?
So simple. So all of the ways to connect with me are on my personal connect page. So it's monicamhenderson.com. You can go there to book a call with me or learn more about my company and all of the things that I've created in the world. All of that is there.
Brilliant. Thank you. It just remains for me to say to you as listeners, thank you so much for joining us. Please do join us on the next show. Let other people know about it. We give free meals based on the numbers of people who listen. And also, if you'd like to be in contact with me, it's Gina, Gina, at Gina Gardiner and Friends. That's Gina and Gardiner, Gardiner, the word and Friends. Thank you so much. Please join us on the next show. Take care now. Bye-bye.